Illustrator versus Photoshop. Which one's better? It's not a question of which one's better overall. Each of them have qualities that are better under certain circumstances. It's like a knife and a fork. You know, they're two different tools. Now, start with Illustrator. You notice that there are these achievements down here. Now, I made these achievements in Illustrator because it was the right tool to use. I wanted to create something. Ooh, I got to fix that little gap right there. I wanted to create something that was, perfect for this situation. And Illustrator, if you look at this, doesn't it look perfect? Now, if I jump over to Photoshop, and before I do that, I want to show you how big this is. If I click on the artboard tool right here, you can see that this is 500 pixels by 500 pixels. And I'm looking at this at 150%. Now, Illustrator and Photoshop treat the computer differently. The computer monitor. Here, if I open up image size, 500 pixels by 500 pixels. Why is it so much smaller? And I'm at 100%. If I go to 150%, I'm going to hit Escape, click down here, click right here, and type 150 and hit Return. There's 150. Why does 150 in Photoshop look so different? Well, one of the reasons is Photoshop recognizes this is a 5K display. 5120 wide, 2880 tall. 4 times the screen resolution as you guys have. So a 500 by 500 pixel image is going to be larger. It's going to appear larger on your screen. They're actually the exact same size. This has to do with image size and resolution. We're going to get to that too. But let's say I zoom in. Let's zoom in down here. Okay? Let's zoom way in. Let's see. What the heck? What is this? What are these things? And what's all this junk around them? This is anti-aliasing, is what that is. That's how Photoshop, when I hit Command 1 to go to actual size, that's how Photoshop makes things look perfect. Now let's jump over to Illustrator where there is no anti-aliasing. If I zoom in here, notice that this isn't centered, and I'll fix that. But notice things are perfect. Why are they perfect? Because Illustrator uses math to draw vectors. Photoshop uses pixels to approximate what's there. Does that mean Photoshop is worse because it doesn't look as good when you're zoomed away? No, no, no. For continuous tone images like photographs, Photoshop is the right tool for the job, not Illustrator. Don't work on photographs in Illustrator unless you really know what you're doing and you have a purpose for doing that. So, in a nutshell, the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop is Illustrator is the recipe. You can double the recipe. You can make 10 times the recipe. No problem. You can resize this infinitely. This could go on the moon and it would look perfect. Filling up the moon, the side of a building. Photoshop, on the other hand, is resolution dependent along with image size. So depending upon where you begin, when you're working with pixels, the end product is either going to work or not work, depending upon if you've used the correct image size and resolution. You're going to learn a lot more about this, but just know one tool is not better than the other. It depends on what you're doing. And then virtually always, once you get to know these two tools, you'll know which one to use. Some of you become dependent upon one program. I just like Photoshop. It works better for me. No. You've learned how to use some features in Photoshop and they work for you. And when you try to use those exact same features in Illustrator, they don't work the same way. If you're an illustrator, there are digital painters, don't get me wrong. People make a good living making incredibly large Photoshop files, doing mock-up work. You know, concept art is quite often done in Photoshop. But Illustrator, for certain things, can run circles around Photoshop and vice versa. So if you really want to be a digital artist, if you really want to know what you're doing, you need to learn both of these programs. And depending on where your comfort zone is, one of them's going to seem difficult, seem harder than the other. Get over it. You need to learn both. Got it? Okay, spend a little time on your own. Look up. Go ahead, search. What's the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop? Go find a few YouTube videos. Write that up. See what other people have to say. And you will find fanboys and girls of one program or the other. But it's the people who know both programs and know which ones to use in which circumstances are the people you really should depend on.